So I don't forget that. Note taker. See what it does. Mark, exactly where are you at in California?
Orange County,
Okay. I was just
opposite of Fountain Valley. I live in Irvine.
I was just at we went to John Wayne, flew into John Wayne from Havasu, and then one of my investors lives in Laguna Niguel. We actually went out to look at this place called PFD. So
Okay.
PFD is I don't know how many funds they have now. They got to talk really fast. They probably have 20 active funds,
Okay.
but they were medical people originally. He was medical sales.
Uh-huh.
And he hooked up with a finance guy, and it was crazy what they do. They raise money into their funds. The fund doesn't purchase, lends money to what do you call them? Providers. So they only
Okay.
work in personal injury. So you get in a car accident, you get a lawyer because the lawyer is going to have to sue Progressive in order for your stuff to get paid.
Hmm.
Lawyer, they know the lawyers that do this, but those lawyers know providers, physical therapists, MRI places that
Sure.
will do this work without getting paid, knowing that
Mhm.
they're going to get paid when the settlement happens.
Somewhere down the road. Okay.
So they're always waiting for the receivables to get claimed so they don't have money to operate. So these guys buy tranches of their receivables, lend money against the receivables at like 30%. So if they have a hundred
It's
thousand dollars
factoring. It's
receivable,
it's loan factoring. They're basically doing the MCA stuff. They're doing loan factoring. So yeah, I heard there's a ton of money in that.
they have
A
one
ton of money.
1.3 billion right now
Oh my God.
under management. It was nuts. And it pays
That's
15%
oh my
because
God.
they get like 40 when it's all sold.
Right.
So they lend them the 30,000, they have to pay them back like 50. And so we went out there to make sure that it wasn't a Ponzi scheme, me and
Right.
my business partner, and
Right.
I asked them, to show us all their underwriting, how they underwrite, how raw data comes in, all of that. It was insane. I was like, man, the shit that's out there that you wouldn't even think about doing. And they're like, yeah, we just kept, and now they've come up with some like knee replacement stuff. And so now they'll do like hybrid, they have a hybrid fund that 70% of it the money goes to receivables and the other 30 goes to create. They already have the patent, but creating this thing to where you could do knee replacements basically with a like a 2 inch cut. So
Wow.
it was nuts.
No, it's amazing. Again, it's definitely amazing. When I got on this, I think I told you when I got on this side, it's amazing to me how many other things or how many other ways you can actually make money on one transaction or from someone who owns a business or whatever the case is. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Nuts. Well, don't know if anybody else is going to jump on or not. Like I said, they always say they are, but we're going to have a great replay. Brandon, I'm going to give you, you can tell everybody a little bit about who you are, kind of what you've done, what you're doing. I mean, that's a lot, but yeah.
Um, so yeah, it is a lot. So I got into residential real estate a long time ago, and specifically just because I wanted to be an investor, ended up getting my license, becoming an agent, and built a really big real estate team, and always stayed in the investment side, and built a bunch of ancillary companies, mortgage, title, property management, construction, development, pretty much. Almost any company that touches a house sale, we own a company around it. And then, years ago, I really, really started to laser focus on the investment side. So private money, raising money, doing syndications, things of that nature. And that's where I spend a ton of my time now is really focusing on the investment side of real estate, wealth building, still have real estate teams, still have all those other companies, but I spend a good amount of my time on the wealth side.
So for people that don't know, kind of break down what those different things mean. So real estate investing is one thing, syndicating, right? What syndicating would actually mean. And then people think of real estate, someone that's never done real estate investing before might think that real estate investing is just buying a house, right? But there's so many more underlying facets. It's funny, I saw a post today with a gentleman talking about someone that doesn't have money that wants to build a real estate portfolio, and they think that um, by buying investment property that cash flows, that they're gonna have passive income, and then then it's only occupied for 60% of the year, and then when the tenants move out, $2,500 goes to the AC, and then all of a sudden your carrying costs, you're negative for the first 24 months. And so in dealing with you and talking with you and being mentored by you, like there's so much more real estate investing and what that means and how people can honestly real estate invest. I don't know, the more I look at it, like I don't know if I ever want to own doors anymore. There's so much way to invest in real estate without ever having to own a door. Uh, and I know you do that too, like multi-unit and multifamily and that type of stuff, but kind of break down what the different types of real estate investing are. Uh, and then maybe what you think is the best avenues that you have found, and why you think they're the best.
So, I mean, gosh, there's so many ways to invest in real estate actively, passively, asset class, single family, multifamily, mini storage, RV parks, mobile home parks. You know what I mean? A new big one now is data centers because of AI, right? Like there's all kinds of really cool things that are out there. Then there's the being on the banking side, private money, buying notes, selling notes, all that kind of stuff. So there's just so many different ways to do it. You know, for a lot of people, it's kind of like I think you move through different stages, and I'm to a point now where I want things that are less and less noisy. And I still will buy single family houses just because I'm I'm set up to deal with it, right? Like we have an acquisition arm that can find the properties. I have a property management company that can manage it. Um, I can do the renovation, and there is a lot of headache that comes with owning properties, but owning a ton of property has made me very wealthy and has helped me build all the stuff that I've done. So for me, I kind of look at it as a storage of wealth. And then as I've learned more and more, through this process, I started investing into other asset classes. But I mean, like I'm buying single family houses this week, right? Because I love that asset class. I just do. But again, it's different for me because I'm set up to do it. And it feeds so many things that I do. So when I say investing in real estate, we have a setup of where we have a machine that we have people and partnerships that consistently go out and hunt for different things, single family, multifamily, mobile home parks, mini storage. And then we figure out the financing side, whether we raise the money, raise equity, do it through a fund, whatever the case is. That was the part when I was growing my business that I always struggled with was you always need capital. And I took destiny in my own hands years ago when I started raising private capital and deploying them into our projects. So we run the gamut of almost every asset class we are involved in and invest in and have people actively hunting for deals for us.
So when you first started out and you were hunting for that capital, how did you go about coming? Like I remember talking to Greg Hurling, he's like, well, when I first started, I was 23, I did nothing. And
Yeah.
some old man told me, hey, you can use people's IRAs if they trust you. And so
Yeah.
he started going out and then one by one by one, and it ended up with like 300 people that were investors of his to help him, put up the capital for him to fix and flip and wholesale and do all that stuff. So how did that start for you? Like, where did you start? Obviously, you don't fall in and get $2 million. So like you started dialing for dollars, but who did you call? Like, what was that like for you starting out, and what worked best after all the trial and error?
So one thing that I believe in real estate is good deals will always find money. And so I was very good at being able to hunt and find a deal and find a good deal. To this day, I'm still really good at that. So the other thing too is, we're in a different era in time now. Prior to the '08 recession, like getting money from a bank from real estate was actually way easier than I think a lot of people remember. So, I was actually able, and you probably remember this. I mean, you could get 100% of purchase price, and in some cases, you could get more than 100% of purchase price because they were basing it off of LTV of the appraised value of the property, right? So I was super lucky that when I first started, I was able to convince some banks to lend to me, and that was prior to '08. Then '08 hit and they were scared to lend, but they would still lend to me. So I bought a ton of real estate in 2008. And, I just to give you guys some context, right? I was looking at, like, I still own assets that I bought in 2008. To give you just one example, I got a house that I paid $40,000 for in 2008 that's worth 360 today. 40 grand I paid and it's worth 360. And when I bought it, the rent was 1,600, or sorry, was $600. And right now today it's 1,600. So, obviously not every deal that you buy ends up like this, but I was looking at this too of in '08, the average rental, and don't quote me on this exactly, but because I'm telling you from memory, but the average rental price in the United States was like 874, 870, something like that. 2025 it's 1,650. So rents have more than doubled, prices have more than doubled. It's like time is undefeated in real estate. If you buy any asset class that can cover the debt service and you know and learn and understand the math, like over time it's just going to go up in value. And if you can figure out holding on to property for a long period of time, it's going to be in good shape. And the one thing that I'll say is if anyone who's watching this that is in real estate, meaning you're an agent, you run a team, it's so wild to me how much, and I'm not knocking anybody in the industry, but how much they will spend on how do I learn how to sell another house? Um, I'm going to spend more money on recruiting more agents, which is all things you got to do, but will not learn, take time, and really dial in and understand the investment side of their real estate business, which eventually can give them uh, passive income that exceeds their active, boost their net worth. You're building assets the whole nine. But so many people in our industry on the sales side, on the brokerage retail side, turn a blind eye to it, which is just so freaking wild to me to this day that they won't take the time, invest, and really, right, like really lock in. Like I'll give you a prime example. I coached two people in the same market, and I started coaching both of them about the same time, about 6 years ago, right? And they make about the same amount of money. They do about the same amount of sales. Both very, very successful real estate agents. Like stupid, like couple $1 million GCI a year. Like, the 1% of the 1%. One of them is close to about a $50 million net worth because I taught him and made him focus 5 years ago on investing his money, putting his money into assets, and just really focusing on wealth. The other guy never listened to me on the wealth side. As a matter of fact, I sent him a text message today getting in his shit because I know where he's at right now in his business, where he's going to have probably $1 million tax liability if he doesn't start buying some rentals this year. And they made the same amount of money. Um, the one guy's probably got a $2 or $3 million net worth, and the other guy's close to $50 million net worth in the same market in the same period of time, making the same amount of money. Just because one listened to me on asset and the other one, you know what I mean? Just I'm a salesperson. I'm gonna go get another transaction. I'm gonna go get another transaction, which is fine, but never really thought about and really locked in on the investment side.
I was talking with Matt Smith a couple months ago, and he said for his team, they developed like a pooled LLC where they're pooling their funds together to go out and buy multifamily
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
team. So now he can actually take people. So they don't, as an agent on a team, you don't have to make $500,000 a year to be able to go
Yep.
out and have some ownership in those things. He's doing it for his team. And I thought I was like, wow, that's pretty cool to have a team leader that does see it. And it's like I can understand. And I know Ben Kinney's always talked about doing it too. Like you do enough transactions on his team, and he's like, okay, now you get to do stuff with me, like buy deals and
Yeah.
do the deals. And 25% of a 20 unit apartment complex is better than 0%, right? And so
Well, yeah, and I mean it's what do salespeople tend to do if they don't invest their money? Spend it, or not, you know what I mean, or
because we
not
can
put it
always make
in,
more, right?
right, or make bad decisions. So, but dude, it's so wild to me to this day of like there's nothing wrong with let's not take focus on what you're good at. That's not what I'm saying. But take a chunk of that income and invest in assets at a minimum, right? To avoid paying taxes and to build an actual net worth. Because most real estate teams are not a saleable asset. If you're a solo agent, that does a big business, that's not necessarily a saleable asset either. If you're an independent brokerage, it's a saleable asset, but at not a very great multiple, right? So it's like this is one place where you can take your active income, avoid paying taxes, and really stack some assets. And just so many people turn a blind eye to it. It's wild.
So that's really big on the active, right? On actively investing in real estate. Talk a little bit about passively, um, what the avenues are, even for just plain Jane people, right? I know we've talked a lot about self-directed IRA stuff and those different types of things where people can actually, I think, if more people knew. I can't remember what Greg told me. Greg told me something like there's 100 million IRA accounts that would qualify to invest in whatever they want to, right? But
Yeah.
you switch it to a self-directed IRA and start investing in whether it's crypto or real estate or whatever they want. And I just don't think the masses understand. They think it's someone like you, like only that guy, or the guy that's net worth is 50 million. He's the one that's always going to make money investing in real estate or buying notes or backing hard money loans or doing those things because of the net worth that he already has. But talk a little bit about how someone can get into that basically just from the get-go.
Yeah, well, so I'll preface this by saying you've got to be extremely careful who you invest your money with. There's a lot of bad actors and a lot of people don't do things the right way. So what I would just tell you is there's a lot of passive ways you can invest. Like you guys have a fund, we have a fund where they can invest with us and just get a passive return and they don't do anything. What I will just say by that of being on this space for a while is a lot of people don't do it the right way. They don't follow the law correctly. They don't do things correctly. So you can do a lot of things passively where you just invest your money and get a return on your money. I would just tell you, you've got to do a ton of research and really understand and know who you're investing with before you do that because there's just not that many people that do it. I don't want to say that. There's a lot of people that are in the space that don't do it correctly, and there are a lot that do it correctly, but if you get in the we don't do it correctly, your capital could be at risk for you losing it all. And I will say this, if you're going to go passive, do not chase crazy returns. That is almost a guarantee you will lose your money. Um, and if you know anything about investing in wealth, 8 to 10% compounded over a long period of time is how you get wealthy, right? Without putting your money at substantial risk. So I can always tell when someone's not a seasoned investor if I'm like, hey, I got something right now that's 9% I can put you in, and they're like, that's not a high enough return, you're not a seasoned investor. Because anything when you get north of 10 adds a substantial amount of risk. And if you lose your money, there's no return on your capital, right? So you got to be really, really careful right? Because what's the stock market's averaged over the last 40 years? Somewhere probably between 7 and 10, if
Yeah.
you looked at the yield curve. A lot of people get super, super wealthy understanding compounding 7 to 10%. When someone tries to pitch you on a higher return than that, I'm not saying it's not possible, and I'm not saying there's not people out there that can pull that off, but the risk profile goes up substantially. And you just have to be very, very mindful of that. The smartest play is compounded return that beats inflation is way smarter than chasing a moonshot that's going to lose your money any day of the week.
So when you say that you raise money, talk a little bit about how you kind of do that, what that really means, and maybe like the avatar of who you're going after when you talk about actually raising capital.
Yeah, so we have a fund to fund structure, which is it is a structure that allows us to raise money compliantly to accredited investors to essentially put their money into real estate deals that we are working on, whether it's debt or it's equity. So we work with everybody. I mean, I have retired school teachers up to billionaires in my fund, right? And they have invested in our projects. What I wanted to do, what I always wanted to do was um, be able to offer an alternative to give someone like an institutional style asset that they can invest in, like a Wall Street quality asset, but not have to, be a managed account on Wall Street where you've got a $15 million net worth to even for someone to talk to you, right? So our avatar obviously is most of our investors are wealthier, but that's not everybody. We have very wealthy to accredited investors, but they're your everyday average person that was just very smart with their money and got into a good position. And we take their capital, put it in safe investments, and give them a return on their capital.
And so tell everybody what accredited means.
Well, that is a definition that we stay away from because I cannot tell somebody if they're accredited or not. But basically, it's a rule around how much money you make and your net worth. And essentially, I can't tell somebody if they're accredited or not, but when they invest with us, they go through a process to check their accreditation to make sure that they can invest with us. And it's just based on how much money they make and what their net worth is.
Oh, okay. And so let's say someone doesn't. Let's say they don't make enough money or they don't have a high enough net worth. What is a way that they can start investing? Is it best for them to start investing actively to where they can take a little bit of money and maybe buy a smaller investment property, single family, something like that to start making money, or what does that look like?
So I think, everybody's different. I think it has to do with you as a person. What is your strategy? Where do you want to get to? What's your pain tolerance? How much time do you want to put in it? How much capital do you have? Um, there's so many ways to skin the cat when it comes to investing in real estate. I think the challenge people have is they think the barrier to entry is higher than it is. It is intimidating, it is scary, and that prevents them from ever moving forward, right? And it's I just give you a prime example. I got a guy that I coach who's Canadian. Buying a property in the United States when you're Canadian and trying to get debt on it is not easy, right? And I told this guy this from the beginning before he ever started coaching with me. And he was freaking determined to figure this out. And he went and did a bunch of research and he figured out a path. We're putting in an offer on his first investment property in the United States today. But he knew what he wanted. He had a clear path to where he wanted to get to. He had an investment thesis. He had a clear understanding of what he wanted to do. I think most people are just kind of overwhelmed of like, I just don't know where to start. or what to do or where to go. I think single family is a great barrier of entry for a newbie that doesn't understand it, but you just got to get educated the right way and understand it and understand the math, right? And just not be intimidated by it because you can get a substantial amount of wealth with not owning a ton of real estate. I think that's another big misconception is you got to own a bunch of real estate to get wealthy, and that's not true at all. If you can amass 5 to 10 houses in almost any market, you're going to wake up one day, they're going to be paid off, they're going to double or triple in value, the rent's going to double or triple. And that's a nice little nest egg that can pay you for the rest of your life and add substantial amount of money to your net worth.
So now people can do a ton of stuff like on their own just by searching and looking, kind of like your Canadian guy did. I mean, there's nowadays we can find information on anything that we want. Um, what are the pros and cons to just going out and being a lone ranger and kind of doing it, or hooking up with somebody that may be able to guide you and help you, whether that be a coach, a mentor, or like we do hard money loans through our lending company. People can give us money to do those hard money loans, but they can also go do that. Like I'd show people how to do it on their own. Like you find the deals, underwrite the deals. You can do all of that by yourself. Uh, Now, obviously, there's probably more risk if they're not as savvy as looking at deals. Um, but what do you see commonly that if people go out and do stuff on their own, like the common mistakes that they make before they come to you and be like, okay, I screwed all this up. Um, I need some help.
Well, I think it's just not knowing or understanding how all of it works. I mean, if you're going to invest in real estate, the smartest thing you can do is get somebody that's ahead of you to teach you how to do it, to not make the mistakes that you've made or that you're going to make. They've already made them, so you don't have to. The other side of this is what I think is super important is if you are going to buy investment, real estate investments, you've got to get somebody that knows what the hell that they're doing. And not every person in real estate understands the investment side of real estate. So, for instance, if you're going to buy a single family asset, right? Does that agent own single family assets themselves? Well, if they don't, I find somebody who does. Same thing. If you're going to go mobile home park, mini storage, whatever, find the expert who actually owns the asset and who's done a deal and actually owns it. That's the person that needs to guide you because they've already made the mistake, so you don't have to. But you got to be very careful that someone you're dealing with actually understands the math and understands the asset class and is not just selling it, is not just being a salesperson because it's very, very different. Buying a single family house to live in is very different than buying a single family house as an investment. And then when you get into the other asset classes, everything is so nuanced that the person that is leading you to the sale needs to really understand it and has to my rule is if they don't own it, they don't own the asset class themselves, I'm not listening to them. And I'm not trying to take a shot at anybody, but like I know for me, I can only educate you on what I'm really versed in. And if I own it and I live it and I breathe it every day, then I actually understand it. If I don't, right, like I'm telling you based on sure, we could rack up sales and stuff like that in asset classes, but you don't have the same nuance of owning the asset where you can talk from that standpoint.
Yeah, I see that a lot where someone might want to, like, I just want to deal with investors. And it's like, okay, I understand that. So how many investments do you have? And they're like, well, I don't. It's like, well, how do you give advice on something? I mean, I guess you can always give advice. It just doesn't, I don't know if it's sound advice. Um, and like for me, doing hard money loans and backing hard money loans and buying my own notes and doing those things, it's like, I have learned what I like and what I don't like. And so I can be niche at certain things, and it's just because I've found that that's where I have the most knowledge in them, and I'm not afraid where somebody else might be afraid in that. Like construction for me is not something that I shy away from. A lot of people do.
Yeah.
But coming from construction and doing construction notes and owning construction notes, getting my own construction loan as hard money and showing people like where they can make more money doing those, I think definitely helps. So I tried to get as many realtors on here as possible because I'm like, I think, you know, the market's the market, right? And so if I work more in the market, I create my own market, and there's still, no matter what's going on in a market, people are always buying and selling investment stuff. Investors are always making money. There's always distressed properties. There's always wholesaling. There's always a need for hard money. There's always notes that need to be bought. There's always notes that need to be sold. And so, as a realtor, if somebody can learn all of the ins and outs of those things, they open themselves up, I believe, to a huge amount of people that are going to be looking to do those things that they might not have the wherewithal to talk to now. First-time home buyers are great. There's always going to be people like there's always people turning 18. There's always people turning 21. I think now the average age is something like 34 before someone buys their first home. And so those people are always going to be turning those ages. And there's, I think, even more people with more money. It's amazing to me when I go look for money, how much money is, I mean, I live in a tiny town,
Yeah.
5,000 people, and there's always money. If I start dialing for dollars, I always find money. It's like,
Yeah.
shit, I need this amount of money, 500 grand, a million, whatever it is. And I'm like, I don't have it. And I start calling. It's amazing to me how quickly it actually gets raised when you put the work in to actually make the phone call.
Hmm.
But there's a lot more money on the sidelines right now than people think about. And so if that money is available to put to work, that means there's other people that are looking for that money to be put to work. And as a realtor, if you can find the two people, right? Find somebody that does that type of loaning and somebody that's looking for that type of loan, like you're a middleman just to sell the property. And so uh I do believe I believe it's missed, and at least in our area, it's missed all over the board. It's missed. There's people that have money in CDs that are making 2 and 3%, big
Yeah.
money. Like
Yeah.
not 50,000, not 100,000, like five, six, seven, eight, $900,000 in CDs, multiple CDs that are just sitting there. They're like, I would love to do something more with this. That's not real risky for me. That don't want to be in crypto or any of those types of things. And then there's people out there that need the money, that are always looking for the money. And realtors are there to sell the property, buy and sell the property. And so I think it's a boat that a lot of people miss, that can
Yeah. I
create
mean,
million dollar transactions.
my entire career, being an investor myself, I've worked with investors. And a lot of agents don't, and they're missing so much money. It's the thing that I love about it is it's not emotional, right? And they're multi-transactional buyers and sellers. So if you understand the math and you bring an investor a deal where the math makes sense, they buy it, and then at some point they sell it. So for me, I mean, I probably over my career averaged 100+ sales a year, getting an investor a deal or selling a deal for them, right? Not including the investment stuff myself. So, I've had so many agents be like, hey, I don't want to work with investors. Instead of like learning and understanding the math, because it's all math, it's not emotional. And then a lot of agents' business are subject to the market because they didn't learn this side. And when you learn this side, and you can work with investors, um, you're not in a market so much where you are subjected to what the general consumer is doing, right? So you still will work with your traditional buyers and sellers, but real estate investors buying good markets, buying bad markets, selling good markets, selling bad markets, and it's all math. It's not emotion. And once you understand and learn that, it's actually a very easy deal and transaction. And that's why I've always worked with investors because I understood the math.
It's like after '08, and we had to actually start proving income. A lot of lenders, they shied away from self-employment. And for me, I was like, it's just a set of tax returns, and here's a worksheet that you plug the numbers into, right? That tells you their income.
Yeah.
I just got really good at plugging the numbers in until where I didn't need to plug them in anymore. I could just figure it out. But people shied away from that in the same sense. I'm like, these are the people, the entrepreneurs are the people with all the money.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we have all these exotic things again that we can do for self-employment people, but for a long time we didn't. It was Fannie and Freddie, and everyone's like, "Oh, they just can't get loans." I'm like, "Well, they can. You just got to look. You just got to know how to do the math. It's always math." And I think
Yeah.
that's
And I just think too, I think that the more, like, if you look at like the real estate you look at it as a real estate agent, right? So you think about it like this. If you're an agent and you're in my market, or you're in a market where there's somebody like me, because I've coached and trained a lot of people, right? And you walk into their to their living room, and the only thing you can offer them is a traditional listing. And then we come in and we got 7, 8 different options for every seller. Like it's hard for you to beat us. And now, in some instances, the traditional sale is going to be the only route that they need. But more and more, we have seen the consumer wants and loves choice, right? Give me options. And I think the more creative you can be and the more solutions you can offer, the more dangerous you can be. And just simply me walking into a seller's living room or one of my agents and saying, hey, we can do, of course we can list your house the traditional way, which has made us one of the top real estate teams in the United States. But here's all these other things that we can do. And even if you don't need them, that's a memory point of in a listing presentation, there's a good chance we're going to beat you just because the consumer's going to be like, damn, these guys are like on some next level shit. And so I think that's ultimately that is because I look at this industry and I look at everything through the eyes of an investor and not an agent. And as a real estate investor, as an investor in general, right? I invest in companies, right? I buy companies. I'm on the board of companies. I invest in different asset classes, not just real estate. The lens that I look through everything is how do we solve the problem, right? How do we solve the problem? How do we move the money? How do we keep the consumer happy? And the one thing that I always stress to agents, man, is I'm like, you got to learn how to think like an investor. And here's the other thing, like I say this shit to agents all the time, like you care so much about real trends. Why don't you care about Forbes? Like, where would you rather be? Where would I rather be? On the real trends list, on the Forbes list? On the Forbes list. Do you know what I mean? Well, you got to start thinking how investors think. And investors don't think like agents. And again, I'm not giving anybody shit for being an agent because I'm still a licensed real estate agent myself. But I was able to take massive leaps in scale, profitability, and net worth in my business because I always thought like an investor and not an agent. Do you know what I mean? And because I thought like that, I was always able to solve my customers' problems. And I was always able to beat my competition because I looked at the transaction through a different lens.
I think it goes back to the old thing of do you care about how many transactions you close or what net profit was?
Yeah, 100%.
Right, like
Yeah.
if you can close
One,
500
one,
transactions in a week and
1000%.
make no
Sales
money.
does not mean profit. You know what I mean? Like revenue is vanity, profit is sanity.
Ooh, I like that. That's good. Yeah, I've always struggled with that. I'm like, what's your bottom line? Well, and then they dance around it. And it's like, well,
That
I mean,
that's all you
helping
need to
people and
know.
impacting lives is great. That's good stuff. Like if I can have more people and scale and help more people make more money and all of that is amazing. And then but I still have to make money too. Like,
Yeah, I mean, and I would just say that, I mean, I have some businesses that are lean with 4 or 5 people that profit more than people that I know that have real estate teams with 60 or 70 people. Again, not knocking anything, but what would you rather do? If I got a business it only takes 4 or 5 people to run it, and it actually has some enterprise value that I can sell, and it nets more money than a business that has 60 or 70 people that's a fucking headache and a grind, what would you rather do? Does that make sense?
yeah.
Now, I had to build that 60 person, team to learn there's better ways to do this. But some people, unfortunately, in this business just get stuck in that just one mindset, one transaction of I'm going to be a team leader, I'm going to stay here, and they never look outside of that. And again, everybody's happiness is different. Maybe that's their happiness, maybe that's what they want to do, and that's completely fine. But you've got millions of dollars of net worth and profit under your nose that you're not capitalizing if you don't build an active side of the investment side, especially if you're in real estate already.
So that was a ton of stuff. I know we have a couple people on. I know Mark's on. I think Jessica's on. Mark, do you have any questions? I always try to leave some time for people to ask questions, specifically to what you might want to be learning or know. Brandon is a wealth of knowledge. He coached me all the way through my fund and getting our fund set up in a super quick time frame of which was my goal. And
Yeah,
so I don't know.
absolutely.
I don't know if it was fast.
I think for anybody I've ever coached, you guys were the record is as of how fast you got the shit done.
Yeah. So I have partners and I'm a good worker bee, but I'm also the compliance guy, so I think too much. And so the other part is they're all
That's
gas
okay.
no brakes. They're all gas no brakes. I'm
Need
the brakes. So we
listen,
mesh really well.
the visionaries in the world, which is me, we need you too, to be like, yo, you need to think, slow down. Like, I understand you want to go to the moon, but like, we got to drive a car first.
Yeah, so that's me. Well, that's why I got you. I'm like, well, I'll just find somebody that I know that can help me do it. So,
Yeah, 100%.
so Mark, what questions do you have? He's still there. Says he's still there. Oh, someone came in late. Let's let Crystal in. Hey, were you in the waiting room long or did I just miss you? Maybe, maybe not.
I think Jessica
Hello.
has a question.
Sorry, I failed to listen to my alarm. Here you are. Hi.
Well, welcome. Well, you missed a bunch of stuff, but that's okay. What questions might you have since you just came on? Maybe some questions that we can answer for you.
Well, I just kind of wanted to listen. I didn't realize it was gonna be so small. Sorry.
No, you
Um,
did.
just I always want to know what's the next best like thing to do with my money investment wise. We do fix and flips. We've done spec houses. What can we do to help the community with affordable housing? I don't know.
Cool.
Sorry, you put me on the spot.
Brandon Crystal is she's a licensed real estate agent. Her husband's a contractor. They build, they sell. She came from the insurance world originally. Like homeowners insurance and property insurance and that type of stuff, and then got into real estate. So I think she's pretty savvy as far as investing goes. But yeah, we're gonna get the replay out too, because there's a ton of information that he went over that I think would be good for you guys. To kind of see what is out there and what's available for people to do.
Sounds good.
Anybody else have any questions? Cool. Well, Brandon, I really appreciate you jumping on. Where can people find you? If they want to follow or I know you put out a ton of stuff, podcast, social media, all that stuff. Where can they find you?
Uh, Instagram at Mailbox Money B, Brandon Brittingham on Facebook. Podcast behind me is Wake Up to Wealth. We usually are number one or number two in the United States on iTunes on the investing category. That's the best place to get me, somewhere on social media. And just make sure it's the blue check. I'm not going to ask you for, invest your money in a crypto fund or anything. Like, make sure you're actually talking to me.
Awesome. Well, I will see you next week
Yes,
in
I'm
Dallas.
excited about that.
I'm excited about that. And anybody that's on the call, ever have questions, just hit me up. Would love to help.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Later.